Hello, welcome to my channel. This is a video about a Supermicro server that I bought on eBay, cheap, looks like this, in one of these 1U cases, called a pizza box by some people. It's got 4 Ethernet ports on the back, one of the reasons I got it. The problem with that kind of case is it's very loud indeed because of the fans. They're 12,000 RPM cooling fans, like little jet turbines, and they scream. So I've taken the motherboard out for a moment. I'm going to put it in a different case, but at the moment it's just sitting here on the desk. Looks like that, and I put just some more normal heatsink on it with a big, slow, silent fan on it instead of the screaming jet turbines. And this will make it a more usable server to have running 24/7, even in a living room. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to keep chopping and changing my video inputs to show you the screen output that has a VGA port on it, and updating the BMC and the BIOS, and then doing some simple tests with Ubuntu, and then installing Proxmox. So that's what this video is about. It may get too long and I may make it in 2 parts. Let's see what happens. It's worth checking the manufacturer's website, of course, for a mainboard because it's got all the information on it and manuals and things. And what I want to do is download the firmware for this, because I'm going to update that first of all. And it's not there. You have to click on resources and then it's here at the bottom somewhere. Update your BIOS, so you click on that, and then this is the page with the firmware. I've already downloaded this. It's a zip file. Within this zip file there are more zip files that you also have to unzip, so it's got multiple layers of zipping which you have to play around with to get the files out. What's important, especially these days, is to check the checksum to make sure that it hasn't been tampered with, and the easy way for me is to use this SHA-256 checksum or hash to check that the file is genuine. So I've already downloaded the file. If we look using the file manager, here it is, x11 whatever .zip, 88 megabytes. So we're going to have to go on the command line and type, we're already in the downloads directory, SHA-256 sum, and then x11 whatever .zip, there we are. Press enter and you can see it generates this hash key from the file I've downloaded, which I'm going to compare to the one on the website. I'm sure there are programs that can do it automatically, but I can see. So it's 94C9 something, and then A01A0. So if we just go and look on their website, here we've got 94C9 something. Here we are, BA01A0. So it's the same. And if you want to be rigorous, you check all the digits are all the same. So that means it's a fairly guaranteed to be original BIOS that I've downloaded and BMC firmware. So then we need to install it, and the way to install the firmware is to put it onto a USB stick. Strange thing is that the BIOS part actually needs to be on a bootable USB stick with DOS on it, so you can install FreeDOS, which you can download from FreeDOS website, and put the BIOS on it and then boot from it on the motherboard to do the BIOS update. For the BMC update, you actually don't need a bootable stick. You just need to run the built-in EFI shell on the motherboard that's built into the motherboard, and then do it from there. You'll see when I go and do it. First thing I'm going to do, having taken the motherboard out of the case and just got it on the bench here, with its own original power supply, it's not too loud at all, surprisingly, but the cooling fans were too loud, so they had to go, I'm afraid. And I'm going to update the BMC, the board management computer, which takes quite a while because sometimes on some server motherboards it's quite a big file. Not sure how big this one is at the moment. And the way to do that is to enter the BIOS during startup by pressing delete on most Supermicro boards. And then if I go backwards, I can get to here. And I'm going to look at the boot order. I've already changed it because I like to put the built-in EFI shell at the top of the list, number 1, and to try and boot into it. And then you can override also the boot. First of all, I'm going to save that change just in case. I like to do things as securely as possible to make sure it happens because it's so slow at rebooting. And the problem is I put a USB stick in that has the BMC file on it and a few other things, and the motherboard finds this. I'm not sure what it is, this CBM USB, maybe someone can tell me, and it tries to boot from it and fails. It's not a bootable USB stick as far as I know. It doesn't have DOS on it either. Anyway, what we have to do is boot into the built-in shell, EFI shell on the motherboard. So I just do that and it will boot into that, and then I will be able to oh, it's already done it. That was quick. Press escape because there's no startup.nsh on the USB stick. So now we're in the shell, and I have to remember to turn off numlock on this keyboard, otherwise when I type I get things that I didn't want to say. And then we just this is the shell prompt. We have to change to the USB stick. This is very much like DOS, so you have to remember your DOS days, and it's FS0:. This is also a weird keyboard, so I have to guess where the keys are. Oh, I did it. So we're in FS0. It's probably file system 0. That's the USB stick, and in DOS we type dir to list what's on it. And the two files I'm going to use are, where is it? Oh, okay, we haven't changed directories yet. There's various things on there. We need to change into that directory at the bottom, the BMC with a long name, that directory. So we just do cd space and then BMC. This is not case sensitive. Press tab to fill up the line, and it's done it. And then type dir again. I may type ls at some point. These are the files I need for this board. Check very carefully it's the right board. It's an X11. That's the right one, and it's the BMC. So we just need the flash program, flash.nsh, and the actual file ending in .bin. That's the BMC firmware, which is actually 32 megabytes by the look of it. So all we have to do, I'll type it all in properly, flash.nsh. Whoops. Don't worry, I'm sure it'll check before it does it. Flash.nsh, and then the file name, which is BMC, and then tab to fill it up because I'm not going to type that in, and press enter. And there we see it's doing stuff. In fact, it doesn't ask if you want to proceed, it just goes ahead and does it. Very nice. So actually I'm surprised it hasn't asked me to authenticate on some X12 server boards I have. You have to put in the BMC username and password to be allowed to update the firmware. And if you don't know them because you just bought a second-hand motherboard on eBay like this one, then you have to install Ubuntu on the machine first. Use the command line commands that you can get from Supermicro to reset the login credentials on the BMC back to the default, which is admin. You may have to do this all in uppercase. Username, password, admin. And then when you give this flash command, flash.nsh, then the file name of the bin file, then you have to put admin, then space and admin if you've actually managed to reset the username and password to that, and then it'll let you do it. Otherwise it just says you're not authorized and it refuses to update. The other thing to remember to do is to when you download from Supermicro's website, it's a good idea to check the checksum for the file to make sure it hasn't been tampered with, because there's been a bit of skullduggery on some Supermicro files. I think it was a BMC file which contained some malware apparently, so it's worth checking it. Hopefully the hash is still the same, and that's one way of checking, although if I was a hacker I would make sure the hash came out the same even after I had hacked the file, but that's something else. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead. I jumped ahead in time and that stage finished. Took a couple of minutes, and now it's doing the next stage which may also take a couple of minutes. No, it's not. It's 10 times smaller, so it's not going to take that long. One thing is interesting on this particular X11 Supermicro board is that the BMC you update from the built-in EFI shell, as you saw me. You didn't see me boot into it, well, nearly, and that's how you do it. But the BIOS you actually have to install from DOS, so you need a different USB stick which is bootable into DOS with the BIOS files on it. Then you use a DOS command to flash the BIOS, so it's two different operating systems you need. It's the first time I remember seeing this. Usually it's all done with DOS from a USB stick, or it's all done with the built-in shell, but this particular one likes to have one of each. I'm just looking at the help file above, talking about the username is user and the password for Alice is pwd. But what's the password for your user, and who's Alice? If you've ever looked at encryption stuff, you'll know about Alice and Bob and Eve, the evil eavesdropper between. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead again. So I jumped ahead. That was taking a very long time, and oh, it looks like it's done it. Okay, 100% complete. Wait for BMC to reboot, about a minute. because the BMC is this independent little computer chip that runs on the main board, separate from the main CPU, to manage things and allow remote access and so on. Even when the machine's shut down, as long as it still has AC power applied, there's a 5-volt standby which is present. Oh, that beep means it's rebooted, and the 5-volt keeps the BMC running. And if you look at the main board next to the BMC chip, which is a, what is it, A-Speed AST2400, slightly older one, I think we're up to 2600 now, there's a green LED. And when the LED is flashing, it means the BMC is running and active. It's like a heartbeat. At the moment it's on solid because it hasn't probably finished rebooting yet, but it will. And then when it's done, I'm actually going to power off the machine and leave it for a minute and power it on again, which is a kind of a healthy thing to do when you update firmware, especially the BIOS. They tell you to do that, so I will do it, but I'll do it with this BMC as well. Okay, that's more beeps. So it's doing something. So now it's starting to flash. Okay, so the BMC is active, and if I actually had anything plugged into the network Ethernet port for BMC, I'd be able to take a look at it, but I don't know the IP address yet, and the default one isn't one that's in my address space on my LAN, so we'll have to take a look at that later on. So next thing to do is to power off, power on again, and then boot from a DOS USB stick and install the BIOS. So after updating the BIOS, I'm booting back into the BIOS setup screen. It's always nerve-wracking, I find, updating a BIOS, because you never know if it's going to go right, although usually I'm fine with it. And actually this machine, you have to remove the power, as I said, and then put it back after a minute and let it start. And then when it's starting up during the boot up sequence, it goes through some power cycles. So it powers down and then powers up again twice, which is a bit nerve-wracking. It looks like it's in a boot loop or something, but it's not. You just have to be patient. And then eventually it boots. Normally I pressed escape. No, I didn't. Delete to get into the BIOS setup screen, and here it is. And as you can see on this page now, the BIOS version is 3.6. It was 2.0C before, from 2017, which I didn't show you. Well, we could see it on the beginning of this video. So now it's gone from 2.0C up to 3.6. Build date is 04, which is April 25th, 2025, which is less than 1 year ago, which is nice to have a fairly recent BIOS for a 2017 mainboard that was first powered on in 2018 according to its logs. Anyway, I'm happy. After updating the BIOS, you're supposed to load the setup defaults, although usually that gets loaded anyway, but I'll do it. Restore optimized defaults. So let's do that. You want to do it? Yes. And this, usually I have to change quite a lot of settings, and I can never remember which ones I want to change, so I just go through quickly looking at what I need to change, which is, oh, I don't want that, numlock off. This is a problem if you're using a laptop style small keyboard, because you get numbers on some of the letter keys if that's on. It's not good. Windows 7. Anybody remember that? I like to have that as power on, because I just put in a power plug and the machine starts. I like that. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you by going through all of these, but you set up the things you like. I turn off the PXE boot, and I turn off the where is it called? Network stack. I turn that off. IPv4 PXE support disabled, because I don't want to use PXE boot over the network, and let's disable that because I don't want to do that. Then those go away anyway. Legacy video. LAN 1 option ROM. I don't want the option ROM, so we disable that. I usually have to go through and do all these things, and every time you update the BIOS it all gets reset, so you need to go and change quite a lot of things, which I will do, and then we'll see what I'm going to do next. I've actually left most of the BIOS setup options at the default values. There's one or two little things I like to change, but it's not very important really. There is one thing that's important though, is the IPMI management interface via the LAN. I like to set the IP address to something that I know. And these are grayed out at the moment. You have to say I want to update it, so you have to change from no to yes. And I don't want to use DHCP, I want to use a static IP address. And the MAC address is the actual adapter on the board, that's fixed. IP address, press enter, and you have to type it in with 3 blocks of 3. So I want 192.168.008. You have to put the Oh no. Oh, somebody turned numlock back on for me. Let's turn that off. Thank you very much. 192.168.008.041. You have to put the leading zeros in, otherwise it complains and it doesn't do it. So I want 192.168.8.41. Okay. Subnet mask is the usual, which is 255.255. Yeah. I'm not looking at the screen. 255.255.0, and then you have to put all the zeros in, like that. And the gateway IP address is not that, but 192.168.8.1. Oh no, see, I'm doing it wrong. 008.001. You have to do that, and then it'll work. 192.168.8.1. That's my router. VLAN, no, I don't want that. And then just press escape, and then you can go and save it. I like to save the changes before I actually reboot or reset, just to make sure I haven't made any mistakes. I've changed the boot select to UEFI only, because most of the OSs I use will boot with a UEFI, and make sure the USB key's in there, because I'm going to probably install Proxmox. But before I do that, I'm going to install Ubuntu on this, do some hardware tests and stress it a bit, and burn in the CPU thermal compound that I put on. So I'm going to reboot and see you in a moment. Now I'm on the machine that I'm using to set this up from, and what I've done is open a web browser, and I put in that IPMI address that I put into the BIOS you saw with the leading zeros, 8.41, and it looks like it's worked. You have to remember to plug the network cable into the port, the IPMI management port, of course. Later on I'll probably be able to set it to do failover to the first LAN port, so I only need one cable plugged in instead of two, because I'm not going to separate the IPMI network from the normal LAN. So the first thing you see when you connect to it, because it's not secure, because it's using its own certificate, not a signed certificate, as it says it's not secure. So you just say I don't care, click on advanced, proceed anyway, unsafe, yes. There it is. Now comes a moment of truth, because now I'm going to see if I can log in with admin. I don't know if this is going to work at all. Let's see what happens. Admin. Press enter. Oh, it's looking good. Well, look at that. Somebody never bothered to set a username and password. Sometimes when you update the BMC, then the password gets reset, but for security reasons on more modern servers, of course, it doesn't reset the password. So if a malicious actor managed to reset the BMC, they still wouldn't be able to get into this page, because the password would still be set to what it was when the owner set it. Let's make that a bit bigger. So make it even bigger. Luxury. There we are, and you can see the BIOS version in 3.6 is the updated BIOS. There's 4 LAN addresses, and this is the IPMI or BMC firmware revision number. I didn't bother to check what it was before, but whatever it is, it's the latest. And you also get a preview of what's on the screen on the VGA port at the back, which is that's the EFI shell. And you can do things like power the machine down and up, reset it. This is an older interface than the newer one, using the newer chip, the 2500. But you can do things already. You can look at information. Oh, it's all blank. Okay, someone erased it. You look at hardware information. So here we are. CPU. It's got a CPU, and it's got some RAM. Tells you. No, it doesn't tell you the serial numbers. Some of these, and I think the newer one tells you the serial number, but certainly the part number for the RAM. Very useful. You can also monitor things like sensor readings. I'll click it down here, where hopefully I can see. Sometimes it takes a while to populate these numbers, so it's not always immediately available. I'm trying to scroll the screen, but it's not working. So, 71 degrees. That's because there's no fan on the CPU heatsink, because I'm trying to run it warm to burn in the thermal compound. And shows you fan speeds. Actually, there are no fans plugged into the motherboard at all, and voltages from the power supply and so on. You can check if it all looks healthy, which it seems to do. Something that's nice I always like is to go to remote control, and then using HTML5, let's see if this is going to work. You just press the button. Sometimes you get a warning you can't record it, And there it is. There's the remote shell for this computer. And if I type on my machine, here, there should be no files because it's not got anything connected. You can remote control the server even when the thing is shut down. So this is the BMC view of things. I'll close that. I find that very useful. I wonder if it's got any hardware keys installed. Where would they be? I did a firmware update. I'm not going to do it because you can update the BIOS or the BMC through this IPMI interface if it has the keys, and I don't know if it has. Where are the keys? Reset factory default. Maybe it doesn't need any. That's interesting. On some machines, activate license. Here we are. Does it have a license? No, it doesn't. Not activated. So that means I wouldn't be able to update the BIOS or the BMC through this route via the network from remote management because there's no node key in here. I never bought one. Some old motherboards have them in, and replace my hashes, of course, but then you can do more with it. Some don't, but I don't mind because I'm happy to plug a USB stick in it and do it that way. So that's the quick overview of the BMC. Next thing I'm going to do is to install Ubuntu on it and play with the hardware a little bit. There is one more thing I wanted to show you, and that is how to set up the network interface for this BMC. If you click on configuration, and then I'll do it on this side down here somewhere, there's network, and you click on there. Let's give it a host name while I'm here, which is X11-3. Oh no, it's out of habit, I put 12, it's an X11-3. Okay, that's the IP address that I set in the BIOS. You can change it in here now, you're in here. DNS server, that's not really what I want. I want 0.8.1. I don't think I set it like that. Okay. So the gateway is correct, DNS server is correct, IP address is correct, IPv6 I don't want to use, let's turn that off. Is there anything? No. Okay, I don't want to use IPv6. VLAN disabled, and the LAN interface is actually already set to failover. You can either have it dedicated, which means that the IPMI is available only through the dedicated LAN port for security reasons, separate it from the 4 Ethernet ports on the main board, or you can tell it to do share, where it's shared, or failover, which means whichever one works, use that one, which is, let me change it to, that's interesting, this is not changing down here. Maybe that reads how it was previously. I'm going to set it anyway to failover, because that's what I want. And interesting, just check everything else. Interesting. Okay, save, see what happens. Okay, it's rebooting the LAN interface, and it may be I have to log in here again as well. But that's something I like to do, set that to failover or shared. So I only need to have one Ethernet plug plugged into the back of this server. So now I'm booting from a USB stick, and I'm going to start up the live version of Ubuntu 22.04 because that's the one I use for testing, so make sure I always get the same results. And there's the live desktop. What I'm going to do is install Ubuntu, and I'm not going to go through the install procedure because it's not the purpose of this video to teach you how to install Ubuntu. There's a clue. You click, I pressed the wrong button. You have to press install, and then, so I'm going to do that in a moment and go ahead and install it, and then when that's done, I'll install some software that will allow me to test this piece of hardware, this motherboard here. Here's a quick peek at what it looks like installing Ubuntu. This is after I did the BIOS update and the BMC update, so the board is all up to date with its firmware. And when this is finished installing, I'm going to run a few tests, see how the board performs and what the power consumption is when using Ubuntu. I finished installing Ubuntu 22, and minimal version, you can click minimal, then it doesn't install all the word processors and email clients and stuff, maybe just to save some time. And this is the Ubuntu desktop, and let's have a look at the usage. So there's that's working, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 8 CPU cores, and a little bit of network activity. That's because it pings home. You can turn that off in the security settings on Ubuntu. Maybe this is a bit too much information, but if you look at privacy, there's this connectivity checking. If you turn that off and it stops them pinging home every few seconds, and maybe that's gone away now. It'd be interesting to see. Who knows? Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's checking for updates. Yeah, it's still going. Okay. Anyway, that's not the purpose of this video. What I want to do is just show you the preliminary tests I do on hardware when I get it, to see how it performs. And I think we're going to have to go and use the command line. Sorry about this for people who are allergic to command lines. Let me just see if it's connected to the network. IPA, and there we can see, yes, it's got the IP address that I set manually on my router using DHCP, and in the future when I install Proxmox, I'll just give in this hard IP address and not use DHCP. Also turn off IP version 6. And here are the other 3 network ports which I'm going to use for VPNs and accessing different subnets in my system here. So that seems to work. How much memory is free? Let's type free and find out. So it's using about, what is it? Just under 1 gigabyte, and there's 32 gigabytes free. If you translate these to gigabytes, so that's nice, which I could have seen on here anyway. Yeah, it's using 1.4 gigs out of 33. So that looks healthy. What else? Check the disk, df-h. What have we got here? SDA2. It's a 500 gigabyte SSD, and it's got, how much is it using? 11 gigabytes for this install of Ubuntu. That reminds me, let's just check the speed of that. Actually, you shouldn't do that on a running system. If I type disks, this one, I like to use this. Let's just test this 500 gigabyte disk. No, don't format it. Let's do benchmark. You can't do a write benchmark. Start benchmark. This dark display is not easy to see, so forget about write. Let's just look at read password. Sorry about this. Oh, it looks healthy. Look at that. It's got 544 megabytes per second read, and write will be about 400 if it would allow me to do it. So that's okay. Looks healthy. And what else do I like to test? Let's go back to the command line. Think about this for a moment. Oh yeah, I like to stress these things. So let's install a lot of things. So sudo apt install. Oops, it's a nasty keyboard. Sudo apt install. What do I like? I like to use vtop to see what's happening. I want to use s-tui, which also needs a package called stress to test these things. Let's do that for now. Install those. The other thing I like to use is hardinfo, but on some OSs it's been replaced by hardinfo 2, so I'm not sure which is which. So let's just try and install it, see what happens. Well, that works. Still there. Okay, on some distros, as I said, it's been updated, and then the benchmarking numbers are different, which doesn't help me very much. It's a bit like what's it called, NeoFetch, which has disappeared and been replaced by FastFetch. Anyway, that's that. Let's run hardinfo because I want to benchmark this CPU. This what is it? Xeon E3 1240 version 6, which, by the way, right now is taking between 12 and 13 watts, doing practically nothing, which is really nice because some of these mainboards take 50 watts, 50, doing nothing, because of the South Bridge or the PCH strip. I think it's the South Bridge, whichever. It takes a lot of power, especially on server mainboards, and gets quite warm. And this one is cool, and the whole thing's using 12 watts, which I really like. So I don't feel guilty if I leave it running 24/7. I like to benchmark using crypto hash on this program. So let's hit that. Oh, it's okay. Normally I like to have 1,000 at least. This is 914, which is not bad for something. It's going to be a virtualization host with networking VPN endpoints and stuff like that. So it's okay. That's pretty good. Nearly 1,000. Of course, I have other machines that achieve a lot more than that, but that's a different ballpark. So that's healthy. Let's close that. So let's run s-tui, which is how I test hardware. And if you haven't seen it before, it shows core temperatures down here. Package 0 is the average, I think. 25 degrees, so that's pretty cool, doing nothing. And it's got a big heatsink with slow turning silent fan on it. And what else is useful? Oh yeah, we'll be able to see the core frequencies if they change when I stress it. So what I'm going to do is stress it. Well, let's maybe look at the frequencies first, if it shows them. I think they're off the bottom. Frequencies, yeah, 4 gigahertz, 0.8. They're all different because it's idling. And if we look at this, you see it's idling. Okay, but I'm going to stress it, and then we'll see what happens to those, and we'll see if there's any turning down the clock frequency when it gets warm. So hit stress, press space. So now it's stressed. And you can see the core usage has gone from practically 0 up to 100%, which is what I would expect. So we've got 8 cores being stressed. And power consumption is 60 watts, 60 watts. Now it's 59 watts, so that's okay. Looking at the mains power meter, 60 watts is okay for 100% stressing a server CPU. It's not too much. I've got others that go up to several hundred watts. But again, that's a different ballpark. So again, I don't feel guilty about leaving it running all the time. It's quite an economical motherboard, this. I'm impressed with it. Very happy, because some of the very old ones, I just sell them off cheap because they just swallow so much power doing nothing. It's not worth it for me, not running an enterprise here. Anyway, let's look at the temperature, 50 degrees. That'll keep rising, and the power consumption normally rises slightly because the fans speed up, but in this case, the fan is running at a constant 900 RPM, and the heatsink on the CPU feels cold. And that core temperature is fine. Let's just check on here that the CPU usage is 100%, as I'd expect. So this is being stressed, but actually it's quite a healthy look at stressing here. 51 degrees, and this is the other chip on the board, 27. That's very cool. So that's really not doing much. So this is a healthy reading. 12 watts when it's doing nothing, and 60 watts when it's on 100% CPU load is a healthy little server motherboard. Oh, I'm really impressed. There's a case arriving any time today, a black tower case from China, of course, cheap and small, but quite a sturdy one. So I'll build it into there, and I'm also going to test it with a different power supply, because this is the original power supply that was in the 1U case, which is fairly quiet. You probably can't hear it. The fan is running, but it's pretty silent, which I didn't expect, because some of those scream as well, especially when the machine's loaded. But 60 watts is not a huge load. I think the power supply is only rated at 180 watts or something like that, the official power supply. The other thing that I want to test is CPU throttling. We already looked at the clock frequency, so let's stress it again. So now we've got 100% CPU load. And let's just go down and quickly look before they change at the CPU frequencies. Clock frequencies is at the moment 3.9 gigahertz. Why does that say megahertz? That's wrong. That's a bug. Well, a spelling mistake. That should be gigahertz. This is running at 3.9 gigahertz clock frequency. 100% util on each of the cores. And on some CPUs, this can throttle down as the CPU heats up. This will be reduced in order to protect the CPU. So this is running at 100% load, which is going to produce the maximum temperature increase. And I think that's not going to change. I think that's going to be stable at 3.9 gigahertz. Oh, I'm really never noticed that before. It should be 3,900 if it's megahertz. Never mind. I'm being picky maybe, but it's interesting to note. So temperature is 53 degrees. It's rising slowly, and I don't think it's going to throttle. The other thing I like to test is the fishes. Let me just put that back in monitor mode so it's not loaded. If I started Firefox, which comes with Ubuntu, and I like to use the WebGL aquarium because it's soothing looking at these fishes swimming around, but also it loads the CPU and the GPU, which in this case is the BMC chip, which is a very feeble GPU if it isn't one even, with VGA output. I think this is outputting at 1920 by 1080. That's very interesting. I haven't actually checked that. Let's just have a look at the what do we call it, display, screen display, and oh, it's doing 1024 by 768. Okay, it's defaulted to that, which is fine. And the fishes, I'm getting 25 frames per second of 1,000 fishes, which is more than I would expect, actually. And it's using the CPU, so that's like 70% CPU load. And what's the power consumption? Well, the meter's turned off, and I'm not going to go on the floor and turn it back on. So that's fairly healthy as well. Of course, for a server, you don't plug a monitor in. I only plug this into when I'm doing the setting up, installing Proxmox, and once it's running, I unplug the monitor and never plug one in again. This is the power supply, the original one from the 1U case, Supermicro. It's rated at 350 watts that I was using for my tests, and the idle power of the board was 12 watts and the load was 60 watts, and I've instead plugged in this Corsair RM650E, which is a 650 watt power supply. It's a bit of overkill for this board, and it runs completely silently and passively till you reach about 50% load when the fan will start, so it's much quieter. And I've plugged this in. This one actually uses 2 watts more than the Supermicro power supply. It uses 14 watts on doing nothing and 62 watts on load, so it's actually taking 2 watts more to do the same thing, which is understandable since it's a bigger power supply, but it just goes to show sometimes if you use an over-dimensioned power supply, then it's going to be less efficient. And this power supply actually has a curve on the box that says that at low loads it's only like 85% efficient, or maybe less, and it's 90-something% when you've got a higher load. So it's not the most efficient thing to do, but it's quieter. This one seems to be more efficient with the low load power. So that's an interesting point to note. The next thing I'm going to do is install Proxmox, the virtualization host. It's a type 1 hypervisor. It means it runs on bare metal, and then on that you can run lots of virtual machines to get more use out of your server. And I use it for a lot of things, a lot. So you just go to proxmox.com, download this VE. Proxmox VE is virtual environment. The current version is 9.1. Download it. They also have other things you can look at. It's really, I like it a lot. I really use it a lot. I don't use any of the other virtualization hosts. I've tried them all, and this is the only one that I actually get on with. So download it. I checked the SHA-256 sum again, which I can show you here. Yeah, this is Proxmox. So it's the same. I compared them and they're the same. And then I burned it to a USB stick using this command on Linux, sudo dd. Input file is that, output file is the USB stick, and it just does it. You have to usually erase the USB stick before you do it, otherwise it finishes too quickly, and I don't believe it's really done it. But this one did it, so there it is on the USB stick, which I then unplugged from this desktop computer and plugged it into the server mainboard and booted from it. And with the magic of OBS, I'm going to switch to my video capture device, which is there. That is the VGA output from the server board, and you can see it's booted into the Proxmox installer, and I'm going to continue by installing that. The default is graphical. Let's stick with that. Press enter and it will start the graphical install. This goes quite quickly. It's easy to make a mistake when you're putting in the parameters at the beginning. Sometimes I get a host name slightly wrong with a spelling mistake, and then it's really annoying because it's not easy to change once it's installed. It's quicker to do a fresh install. And let's hope this is going to work. It's asking for an IP address. Hopefully it's got the one that I want to give it, which is going to be fixed anyway. Looks like it has. Yep, that's good from my router. So let's wait for it to start up. Detecting a country from the IP address. Usually it gets it right, sometimes it doesn't, and you have to set that manually. We will see. Here's the GUI. Do I agree? Oh yes, I agree to everything always, of course. Where are you going to put it? On here. Make sure you don't install it to the USB stick. That's the right SSD. Good. Next. Country. Oh, it didn't. So that's interesting. Didn't find it. United Kingdom. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Time zone, Europe, London. Keyboard layout. Actually, no. I want a German keyboard because I've got one of those plugged in. So country, time zone, keyboard. Okay. Password. Let me give it a password. Key clicks, you might be able to guess my password. If you don't put in an email address here, it doesn't let you proceed. You can put anything in, but this example doesn't work. I'm going to put in a real one. And the reason for using a real one is that you can set it to send you an email when it's finished doing a backup or something, which is pretty useful. It's a bit of fun. So that looks okay. Next. host name is going to be, what's it going to be? X11-3, because it's my third one of these X11 boards. .g4eyr.net. Let's put it on that domain. Yes, that's correct. Management interface NIC 0, because it's got 4 in there, 0 to 3. IP address it's managed to get via DHCP, which is correct, and of course I'm going to fix it there anyway. Gateways that, DNS servers that, that's correct as well. It's my DNS server, it's a Pi-hole. I recommend you use Pi-hole if you're not already. Get rid of all that nasty junk, scammy, spammy advertising and goodness knows what else. Okay, so that all looks good. I really have to check this, because if you get it wrong and install it wrong, you have to reinstall it with the parameters that you want. This really is what I want. So yeah, that's okay. Let's go next. Summary, automatically reboot, yes, why not? And off we go. It doesn't take very long, just a minute or two. It's much faster than installing Ubuntu, because it's a smaller system. It's based on Debian, and I like it, but I'm not going to make you watch this. What I'll do next is show you the control panel for Proxmox after it's been installed, and show you how I set that up, because I make a few changes to the storage to suit my needs here. After the install is finished, it will look like this. It puts up a blue screen telling you that it's loading Proxmox, and then it's loading up the OS, and it boots to a login prompt, as you'll see, which is perhaps not very friendly if you're used to desktop GUIs, but you never need to look at this again. You don't even have to use this. There it is, the login prompt. And if you wanted to log in here, you would log in as root and then put in the password you set during the install, and then you can do things on the command line. Sometimes I like to run btop on this so I can see the loading on the server on a separate monitor from the one I'm using. So what I'm going to do now is switch to my desktop screen capture, which looks like this, and let's open a web browser at that IP address 192.168.8.40, and then you need :8006. That's the port number it uses. Again, it says it's not secure because it doesn't have a valid certificate. Proceed anyway, and then there it is the first time. So you log in as root. Password is the one that you set, which is what? And I save the username locally, and you need to log into this PAM standard authentication. So there it is. There is the Proxmox control panel. This thing I minimize because I hardly ever look at it. It gives us more space on the screen. Maybe I can make it bigger for the purposes of this video. And Datacenter can have multiple Proxmox nodes, and that's really nice because then you can transfer virtual machines between nodes even when they're running, and the users don't even notice, but I'm not going to be doing that with this. So this is the local node, and if you look at the summary, it's the first time I've run this, so I don't know what it's going to say. And yeah, there's the 8 cores, and there's the hard drive, 32 gigs of RAM. It's all how it should be. Actually, that's the data center still. Let's look at the node. Gives a little bit more information in the summary. There it is. No CPU usage. Yeah, it all looks healthy. And the first thing I do is to amend the storage, because at the moment it's got 2 different partitions, and I want everything on one partition because this one sometimes is a bit small. It's usage is, it's 100 gigabytes it's given it, and this one will be the rest, which is 360 gigabytes. Very nice. If the small one fills up, it can be a bit embarrassing, so I put it all in one partition. And how do I do that? I need to look at my notes to do this. You need to go to the node name, which is that, and then click on shell to give you a command line shell as root into this device. You have to watch what you're doing here when you root. Don't mess it up. And then I need to look at my instructions, which I've forgotten to paste in here, but I think I've got it here instead. Here it is. You have to do these things. You have to go to Datacenter Storage local-lvm remove. This is not easy. Why is there another one of those? Okay, that's that. So, Datacenter Storage local-lvm. That's the one I'm going to remove because these are actually like 2 partitions. Let's just remove it. It's gone, yes. Sounds drastic, doesn't it? But I've done it. So that's removed. And then you have to change the storage types. I want to add everything to that to store all kinds of files on what's left. So you can actually double click on it. Yeah. And the content currently is these things that are highlighted, but I want to also store these things on that as well. So everything gets stored on the same partition, and say OK to that. And then I always have to use my notes for this. Then you go to the shell of the node, and you have to issue these 3 commands. I'll do them one at a time. So first of all, that one. So the node is here, shell is there. You can do Control-Shift-V. Do I really want to do it? Oh yes. Done it. Okay. That's the first one. Second one is this. Resize the remaining node. Control-C to copy it. Put it in there. Control-Shift-V. Bing. Successfully resized. Very nice. And then the last one is this. Put that into here. So it's done it. And if we look at this, you can see now over here there's only one storage partition, and it's got 482 gigabytes, which is the whole disk, minus of course the part that's used by Proxmox itself. And you can see it's increased from 100 up to, it's going to go up to 482 when it gets there. This is a slow moving graph, so that resizing has worked. We now have one partition. And the next thing I do, which I think is important, is to update the system. So if you go to updates, it'll say, oh, it's got to load them first. The problem is it doesn't have any repositories, because you have to check which ones are loaded. Yeah, enterprise is enabled. And I don't have a subscription because I'm still testing Proxmox. So let's disable that one. Where is it? Enterprise sources. Let's get rid of that, disable. And these 2 Debian ones, they're fine, they'll work. And this is also enterprise. Don't want that. Disable. Sometimes this changes from version to version, which is why I'm doing it a bit more carefully. And then of course we don't have the repository for the Proxmox updates, so let's add one. Yeah, I know I don't have a subscription, so not enterprise. Let's add a no subscription repository, which is not recommended for production use. It's for testing, but it works, and I like it. So there it is. So now we're getting updates for Proxmox, and okay, it's no subscription, and I'm getting the Debian updates. Yeah, there it is, Proxmox. Okay, looks good. So now we can go to updates and hit refresh, because there might be a few more now. There were 40 originally. Let's see what happens, and take it a few seconds. So now we've got these 40 Debian updates that were there before, but now further down here there's 33 Proxmox updates from that repository. So what I'm going to do is hit upgrade. Yes, and it'll do that update. That's going to take a while because it's a fresh install and there's probably a gigabyte of data there. So I'll leave that running and then come back when it's finished. I want to install Debian first of all, and I'm cheating and using a script that I wrote. So I just run this script and it's downloading, as you can see, Debian 12.12, which is the latest version, net install ISO, without me having to upload it manually. But I will show you how to upload it manually. I'm just wondering if I dare try showing you that while it's still doing this download. Oh, it's finished. So it's put it, where's it put it? In here, which is where the ISO templates go. In fact, we'd be able to see it if we look in here, probably. ISO images for local, yeah, there it is, Debian 12.12. I do it with a script because it's easier, but otherwise you download it from their website, store it on your local machine, and then you upload it to the Proxmox server by searching for a file. So in my downloads directory, what have I got? Let's assume I wanted to install that one or upload it. You do select, and then you just press the upload button and it uploads it into the ISO directory. That's the manual way to upload it, which is easier if you're just starting off using Proxmox, but I'm a bit impatient, so I have a script to do it for me. So I'll put a few more ISOs on here, and then I will go ahead and install or set up some virtual machines and install some images on them. The ISOs have finished downloading using the scripts, and if we look now in local, there's two different Debian 12 and 13 latest versions ISOs, net install ones, which downloads what it needs as it goes rather than being the whole thing, which I like. And what you need to do is create virtual machines, and I'm being more rigid now with this server setup, because normally when you create a virtual machine, the first one is number 100, which is fine, but I'm trying to be rigid, and I want my virtual machines to have an IP address the same as the VM number. New idea from a couple of days ago, and I'm really regimenting what I'm doing. And I'm going to install first of all those ISOs into virtual machines and give them numbers from 200 up, and then I'm going to convert those into templates which can be used to create more virtual machines. And these always stay as templates, they won't be able to run, but I can just clone them into individual virtual machines, and those are going to have a VM number starting from 150 up to 199, because I already have 100 to 149 on another server. So then when I'm working on a VM on a command line interface perhaps, then I know which server it's on because of the VM number, and I know what IP address it's going to have because it'll be the same. That's my new plan. Let's see if I can remember to stick to it. So first of all, I'm going to install the first one, Debian 12. So how are we going to do that? All you have to do is create VM, and see, it's going to give me 100, but I'm going to call it 200 and put all my templates up in that space. And it's Debian 12. CLI means command line interface, so I don't want a desktop on this. I have another one that has a desktop. This is for running servers for other little projects. So it's going on this node with its name. 200 is correct. Right, that's okay. Next thing is, what OS do you want to install? Well, I want this Debian 12 ISO, and I think everything else is fine. System, graphic card, let's leave it at default for the moment. I'm not going to need this QEMU. Well, I'll put it in there anyway, just in case. Okay, that's all standard. And then I have to choose a disk size. You can change this later on a virtual machine, but let's just start off with, what am I going to start with? Maybe 8 gigabytes, just for fun. And yep, that all looks okay. CPUs, let's give it 2 CPUs because it takes a bit longer to install with only one. Memory, let's give it, actually that's enough, it's more than enough. It needs about half a gigabyte to run a command line Debian. Network interface, it's VMBR0, that's the main network LAN port on this Proxmox server. So that's it. Confirm, and then start after created, and then click finish, and it will spin up a virtual machine with the number 200, which is beginning to appear over here, and then it will start it. That's what the green arrow means, so it's already started. And if we look at the click on it first, look at the console, we'll see that virtual machine starting up. I'm going to press enter to save, waiting for the timer. So that's going to install Debian 12. But as I said, when I get to the point where it asks what desktop I'm going to choose, I choose no desktop because it's going to be a CLI command line interface only, and then I can have others with desktops on them. So I'll install a few of these and then see what happens next. Whilst it's installing and watching all that going, I'm actually looking at the console interface, the VGA port on the back of the server, and I've logged in as root, and I'm running btop, which I mentioned earlier. And just because I like to monitor what's happening, you can see the CPU usage, and you can see data flowing in and out when necessary via the network connection. So it's just a nice animation, so you know it's working. Not that I've ever had anything crash on Proxmox, but it keeps me entertained while I'm waiting for the OS to install. After the machine finished installing, I logged in as the user with the username I gave it, and given this command line interface. And I forgot to check the box to install OpenSSH, so I had to install it manually so that we can SSH in, and then you can read it better because that's probably a bit small. So here I am logged into that machine using SSH. And what am I going to do? I'm going to do, I'm not root, so sudo apt update. I always do this when I first install. Oh, it's already up to date. Well, that's interesting. So I didn't need to do that. And what I would do next then, let's just exit out of that. So disconnected. What I would do next, having got the thing working, is I'm going to, I should have done it from over there, but let's do it here then. Sudo shut down. Actually, there's an easier way. I'm lazy. All you do is you go to your Proxmox console shell and you say qm stop, and then the virtual machine number, which is 200. And that'll shut it down nicely without me having to tell it to shut down, which is too much typing. There we are. Green arrow is gone, so it's shut down. Why did I do that? Because I'm going to clone it. No, I'm not. I'm going to make it into a template because it's already set up and up to date. So you double click on it, convert to template. Yes. And then it'll make it into a template. And then once that's finished, I can go ahead and clone it into a new virtual machine. So it's already finished. So then I'm going to say I want to clone it, and I want VM number 150 according to my new structure. Let's have a full clone and not a linked one. Give it a name. We can give it any name. You can change it later anyway. So I'll just call it deb12cli for now, but I might change it later to something else more meaningful. Full clone 150. Okay, let's do it. So it's cloning as we speak, and there's no load on this server, so it won't take very long at all. And hopefully, having cloned it, I will be able to start it and make it work. So let's click on it, click start, and it should start up. And it will get a different IP address to what the template had. Otherwise, you end up with a lot of clones all having the same MAC address and then playing the same IP address, and that's not very clever. So the system, Proxmox, actually gives randomized MAC addresses to each of the clones. Problem then is if you copy the clone manually to another machine, then you have to manually change the MAC address to avoid IP address clashes if you're using DHCP, but that's another problem. Anyway, there it is. There's the login prompt. So that was made into a template and then cloned in just a few seconds. The eagle-eyed viewer will notice that I've changed the room perspective. Actually, I changed desks. Anyway, this is the Proxmox control panel again. I've installed a few more virtual machines, also some GUI desktops, Ubuntu 22 and 24. And each of these, when I get them set up how I like them, I then convert to a template. So it ends up down here, and I can clone them as many times as I want. And of course, if I mess things up, I can delete a virtual machine and clone a fresh one from the template again. Or you can do backups and rollback as well. It's also included. Maybe I'll show you that right now. Where's backup? There's backup. And this machine is not yet backed up, but if you wanted to, you'd press backup and it does it. It takes a couple of seconds. You can even tell it to send you an email when it's finished if it's going to take a very long time. Anyway, so there's the console, and of course you don't want to have to use the virtual machine desktop like this on the Proxmox console. That's not the idea of Proxmox. I want to serve this via my network, and you can use the remote console they provide. No VNC is one of them, which works fine, and then you can pipe that to wherever you want it. The only problem is you cannot copy paste into it, and it also doesn't relay audio out and audio into this virtual machine. So years ago I discovered Spice, which does all of those things. So all you have to do is to it's not grayed out because I've already set it up. You have to change the default display, and if you go to hardware and display, just double click it. Normally it's set to default, which is that no VNC, which is fine. But if you want the copy paste ability and audio, then Spice is good. You can also use virt.io GPU, that also works, depending on what you want to do. Try them out, see which one suits you best. So I changed that to Spice, which is already done. Then you have to remember to install on the virtual machine this Spice VD agent, otherwise it won't work either. You've got to put that in there, and then you need a client to look at these things with. And what I do, running Ubuntu or any other Linux, this is actually Linux Mint, is on my local machine I'm using as a terminal. You have to install this program called Virtual Viewer, and that enables you to view the Spice windows. First time you actually open one, it just saves the file instead of opening it. I can't quite show you how to do that, but you have to look in the downloads and right click on it and say always open files of this type, so then it just opens the window instead of saving the file. So now if I just click the console button, because this is already set to Spice, it should default to Spice. There was the file you saw nearly being downloaded, and then it opens up in this window. So this window now I can copy and paste into if I want, and use it just like a normal computer. If you make it full screen, then you don't even know you're not using a real computer. Where you're sitting, you're just using it could be a thin client and then a much more powerful desktop running on the server. So that's something that's worth showing you. Somebody asked me about Windows client in a previous video, and that's a good point. Some people are still using Windows, I hear. So if you're using Windows, then what do you want to do? Screen capture? Then you will probably want to use something like this. I haven't used Windows for a few years, so this is looking a bit out of date. But this vert-manager.org has a Spice client. Where is it? Not Vert Manager. You've got to go down to Vert Viewer, which is similar name to the Linux version, and probably you want this one, the Windows 64-bit version, and you just install that on Windows, and then it'll work in the same way as what I just showed you. Then you just click on the console button, and the Spice window opens up for you. This says 2021. Maybe it just doesn't need any updates. Maybe you want to Google for a newer version in case there is one, and I can be horribly out of date sometimes when it comes to Windows. I think that's enough for now. It's getting into a long video. The last thing I'll show, though, visually, if we just go back to the camera, which I've pushed off the screen and resized, and you know what, I'm so lazy, I'm going to let you see how I resize video. Like that, bit of fun. Still recording, good. So the server, I showed you originally the case, which you might be able to see down there. The pizza box case is now empty. I'm going to use that for my SDR farm, which will be a lot of SDR receiver dongles and RF splitters and stuff. That's coming up in a different video eventually. And the reboxed server is in the right hand of those tower cases, which are economical from Amazon and silent. Not so many lights flashing on it at the moment because it's not doing very much. I've only used it to make this video so far. So now I've got two Proxmox servers, and I can back up between them and experiment with one and use the other for production, as we call it, so I don't mess it up, and I feel more secure that way, having two of them. And when you buy cheap second-hand stuff on eBay or whatever platforms, it's quite good value for money, and it's a lot of fun setting them up. Well, I like setting them up. As you noticed, I quite diligently go through improving things and testing things before I build it into another case like that and make it silent and make it reliable. It's got DDR4 ECC RAM in, so error correction, which is useful, and these things never crash on me. I don't think I've ever had a Proxmox server crash, unless I've messed it up totally and had to reinstall it. That's different, but it's never failed. And the virtual machines don't usually crash, and if they do, you just stop them and delete them and reclone them. So that's enough from me. I look forward to reading your questions and comments in the comments below, and watch this space for more videos about technical stuff.